Welcome to the neighborhood Ford store Steelers Extra Point.
Good evening, everyone. On a night where Rudolph saves Christmas for the Pittsburgh Steelers, we welcome you inside our Extra Point show. Bob Pompeani wishing all of you a wonderful holiday. And certainly it got off to a good start as the Steelers, a blowout for the first time, a margin of victory this big since 2020, 34-11 over Cincinnati. And with a makeshift defense, they made Jake Browning look real bad, and you got a third-string quarterback for the Steelers who hadn't played in 2 years. Go figure. Mason Rudolph comes in and right off the bat throws a dart to George Pickens. It got it started, an 86-yard touchdown. And what a day it was for the Steelers as they erupt to a 24-0 lead at halftime, go on to win 34-11. Bob Pompeani here, joined now by Bryant McFadden, who joins us. And all smiles I see down there from you, Brian. And this was a game a lot of people wondered about. The Steelers had lost 3 in a row, and I still think those losses at home are going to haunt them to the teams like Arizona and to New England. But today, what a redemption day. And your thoughts about Mason Rudolph?
Mason was the ultimate professional, Bob. You know, just waiting, standing on the sideline the entire season. Something went down. Something happened with Kenny Pickett because of the injury. You know, Trubisky got the nod before Mason Rudolph, and Trubisky was the guy for a few weeks. And then, of course, offense wasn't really clicking. They called on Mason. Guess what he did? He answered the call. People fail to what people must remember is that he is the longest tenured quarterback that we have currently on our roster. So he understands the Steelers organization. He understands the offensive mindset, and he's the most experienced Steelers quarterback as we also have within the organization. So I really was expecting some pretty good play. I didn't expect almost 300 yards and the splash plays that he was able to deliver, but I felt like he would showcase the ability to orchestrate and sustain drives, and he was able to do so.
He certainly was. 17 of 27, 290 yards, 2 touchdowns, a 124 rating, and that certainly made Mike Tomlin happy. Let's go to his post-game press conference from Acrisure Stadium.
Man, really exciting win. Appreciative of the effort and focus of the group. It was a total team effort in all 3 phases. Made the necessary plays, splash plays, played together and hard. Just happy for the guys in the locker room. Going to have a Merry Christmas. Unfortunately, man, we just were snake bit a little bit at inside linebacker. Landon Roberts went down with a pec injury, wasn't able to return. We'll have more information, I'm sure, on Tuesday when I get back with you guys. Questions?
Mike, what'd you like about what Mason did?
He was Mason. We talked about it early in the week. He's got a belief in himself. He's aggressive in his play style, and I thought he did a really good job not displaying a lot of rust for a guy who hadn't played, obviously, a lot.
Did you become more aggressive as the game went along because of seeing how he was performing?
We came in with that mentality. All week we talked about scared money, not making money. And so that's kind of a mentality as we went into the week.
Mike, you weren't going to sit on your lead there at the end of the first half, even though you're pinned down. You came out and you just kept throwing. Is that part of the mentality that you wanted to have?
Yeah, we had a certain anticipation of what they might do, and when you're comfortable with that, then you play aggressively, and not anything earth-shattering. There's intimacy in divisional play. I'm sure they know us as well.
Mike, that scared money, don't make money mentality. Why was that the emphasis going into this week?
It was appropriate.
You said you kind of had an idea what they were going to do. Was part of that the way you were able to pick them apart in the middle with Freiermuth last game? Didn't even go to this one. You went, it seemed like Pickens right away.
They had a lot to do about that. I think some of the schematics that they deployed was in reaction to some of the things that Moose did last time. Again, it's chess, not checkers, man, when you're in divisional play.
I guess this is early.
All right, Mike Tomlin talking there. We have an abbreviated show for you, so we're going to get right to the JP Roofing final stats in this one. You see really total domination by the Steelers, who as a unit go over 300 yards passing in this game, just fall short of 400, but it would have been the only 2 400-yard games, both against Cincinnati, which defense has not been very good all season long. But Bryant, let's talk about next week. Mike Tomlin will probably not say much about who will be his quarterback. Kenny Pickett will practice. He did this week. Who would you start next week? Seattle, it's a must-win again for the Steelers, whose playoff chances went up to 12%, but still they got a lot of work ahead of them.
Yeah, Bob, I don't want to think for you, but to answer your question, I think I would start the same guy you would start, Bob. And that's Mason Rudolph.
Yes, indeed.
That's Mason Rudolph, right?
It's still Christmas season, right? Got to keep extending this all the way through the new year.
No question. And one thing I know about, when you gamble, I play blackjack. I never walk away from the table after hitting 21. That doesn't make any sense. My hand is hot. I just won, right? So let's run it right back. So me personally, when you talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers, Bob, having no room for error, this is a fan base that have been looking and begging and praying and pleading for some type of explosive offense, aggressive offense, and we've been really not seeing that on a consistent level. And then for the very first time against a playoff-worthy team that was trending in the right direction, Mason comes all the way off the shelf. He wasn't at the front of the bench. He was basically at the back of the bench and delivered all the prayers that the fans have been praying for. Why not? Why not?
No, I agree.
And I'll tell you
agree
this as well, Bob. The team usually answers your question when something drastic happens, either a new coaching move or a personnel move, right? We saw that with the Raiders. When they fired Josh McDaniels, the team answered all the questions in regards to, was that the right move when Antonio Pierce became the guy? Look at Buffalo. When they fired Ken Dorsey, brought in Joe Brady, the team answered all the questions with, was that the right move? You saw how the team responded tonight? George Pickens was a George Pickens that was heavily involved because of the new quarterback change. So to answer your question, I'll ride with the guy who just hit blackjack for us, and Mason Rudolph.
And you also saw it here when they got rid of Matt Canada. The response was a 400-yard offensive game. We're going to hear from Mason Rudolph and George Pickens, who had 2 big catches today, went on the day for 195 yards. That's an answer for him. We'll do it when we continue on this abbreviated edition of The Extra Point. Steelers win 34-11. Steeler fans, some of them left early, not because they were getting blown out, because they were blowing a team out, which we haven't seen in a long time. More coming up next.
Welcome back to the neighborhood Ford store Steelers Extra Point.
Welcome back. Bob Pompeani along with Bryant McFadden. AFC North standings. It's really interesting. The Steelers are 4-1 in division, and yet they still may not make the playoffs. And you would think dominating the division, that's one of the keys we always talk about at the beginning of the year, but here they are 8-7. They're going to need some help. And Cleveland, by the way, takes on the Texans. That's also a team at 8-6 and one that has a tiebreaker on the Steelers. Right now, let's listen to Mason Rudolph after a victorious day over at Acrisure Stadium.
It's grateful to be back on this team this year and to have an opportunity to play a game. That's all you can ever ask for, and just thankful to God for giving me, for orchestrating it the way He did, and blessing me and us with a great performance. Just special night, and thankful to God.
On your second touchdown, the second touchdown pass to George, I saw you looking off to the left in the crowd there. Kind of walk me through that.
Yeah, I was just looking at my parents up there. I know where they sit, so I was just seeing what I could see if they were enjoying it as much as I was. But that's all that was.
Mason, what was your reaction to the crowd chanting your name?
I think I said that this week. We're all human. I'd be lying if I said I didn't enjoy it or I didn't like it. But it's a week-to-week league. They could, I've been on the other end of it, as I said. So I try not to. You try to block it out and play the game. I mean, we still had a second half to play, despite the lead. So you can't let that enter your mind and let you relax for a second, because it. So, but hey, we've got a bunch of passionate fans, and it was just what a joy to play in front of them tonight. Last home game. All my family in town, so it was amazing.
Yeah, it was a great day for Mason Rudolph, no doubt, chanting his name. And the quarterback comparison, you're going to see they outperformed a guy who is as hot as anyone in the NFL, and that is Jake Browning, who today was intercepted 3 times. Patrick Peterson, the friend of your podcast over there, B-Mac had a nice interception. I was hoping he would return it for a 106-yard touchdown. That was just me. In the meantime, you see the numbers. Browning with a 69 rating. And how about Mason Rudolph? 124, 290 yards passing, no interceptions. And that's something that Mike Tomlin stresses, and he got it today from his quarterback. But yeah, Pat Peterson, he had an interception. We saw Highsmith have one. And Rowe had one as well. So, I mean, there are all these guys making plays when you least expected about. Your thoughts about this quarterback comparison, and also about, George Pickens, who was on the other end of a lot of scrutiny. He answered it tonight, didn't he?
Yes, sir. When you talk about the quarterback comparison, Bob, I felt like the winning team would have the best quarterback. And that was the case for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Mason outplayed Jake Browning. And you got to talk about a Jake Browning over the last 3 weeks in this 3-game winning streak that they were currently involved in before tonight's matchup. Jake Browning was playing some real high-level football. I think in that 3-game stretch, he had 5 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. He was seeing the football field well and making plays. So seeing how well he was playing and knowing that their team was in the midst of doing some pretty good things, Pittsburgh defensively, kudos to TA and his staff, Terrell Austin, because you talked about Patrick Peterson and Eric Rowe, both coming down with big-time, game-changing interceptions. Eric Rowe wasn't a part of this team in the month of September. He just jumped into the lineup, was on the practice squad. Pat P was a corner for the majority of this season, but because of the injuries and the suspension of Casey, had to go back to a safety position and try to fill the void that was left. And these guys all played an outstanding game when you talk about the guys in the third level and the second and the first level guys as well. So this was a total, complete team effort. And this is something that we've been wanting, right, Bob? A sense of urgency, right?
Yeah.
Effort. Guys playing with their hair on fire and having fun. And they displayed that from start to finish. And that's a huge plus to see. And as you mentioned, our backs are against the wall and we're trying to get into the tournament. But mathematically speaking, we still have an outside shot. But this was a great early Christmas gift for all of Steelers Nation because this is what we've been wanting for weeks.
Yeah, and I know Chris Hoke, who's not here, he's off today, but he's smiling because he's been calling for Mason Rudolph for quite some time. So I'm sure he was one of the guys over there chanting Mason Rudolph. And George Pickens had a big day. You're going to hear from him. And this is why the Steelers didn't want to deactivate him, because the talent is too significant, even though he was dealing with a lot of scrutiny. We'll hear from George Pickens next, right here as we continue on your neighborhood Ford store Extra Point on KDKA+.
Welcome back to the neighborhood Ford store Steelers Extra Point.
All right, let's take a look at that playoff picture because you're going to see how tight it is. Cleveland has a big game, like I said, with Houston. So they're going to go and bang heads there tomorrow. Indianapolis, they have Atlanta. Buffalo will play tonight against the Chargers. So all these things, the Steelers need a lot of stuff to happen, but they're still alive at 8-7 with a trip to Seattle coming up. And one of the big playmakers today, and Mason Rudolph loves to go deep, it's George Pickens, who has not been targeted as much as he was complaining about some of the out routes. Well, when Mason's in there, they go deep, and he did today. First drive, 2 plays, 92 yards, 86-yard score. Let's hear from number 14 after the game right now.
I made some comments, before the week that kind of, ticked you guys off. But, I just want to say, I'm just here to win, make the proper adjustments and be a great player, to be honest.
Open it up. George, what led to what we saw out there today, especially?
Really just, connection and a lot of stuff that we did at practice that, came through fully, you know what I mean?
George, after what was a maybe a difficult week for you, any added impetus to come out and some retribution and to show people what you're all about?
No, not really. I know the type of person I am. So I just came out to play, try to win.
When you caught that first pass and you began to go down the field, you knew the end zone was where you were going to end up. I mean, can you kind of take us through your mindset of kind of just the release and getting everything from this week behind you maybe and starting off fresh?
I just gave him a good release. I ran a slant, had a 3-yard slant. Mason put it on timer, made the safety miss, and then the rest is history, to be honest.
Yeah, the rest is history when you have the kind of speed he was going at 21 miles an hour at one point of that. And that's the fastest Steeler in open field since 2017, if you're into that stuff. All right, 4 catches, 195 yards, 2 touchdowns, 86 yards. He also had a 66-yarder. He had a 44-yarder. And B-Mac, let's talk about it. That first play set the tone for this one. The safety took a terrible angle, and that's all you need to give him. The money pass had to be right there on target, so he didn't lose stride, and he didn't.
Yeah, it was a 1-2 combination. I mean, tight end went to the flat slant by George Pickens, a dime of a throw, very, very accurate throw by Mason Rudolph. And that's something that no one is really talking about. We're talking about the catch and the run after the catch, but Mason hit George Pickens in stride. Oftentimes, Bob, we see a wide receiver on a slant route he's not hitting in stride, and that gives the defender an opportunity to make a tackle. But because of the accuracy of the pass, he hit him in stride, and as George just laid out for all of us, made the safety miss, and the rest was history.
Yeah, it really was, and the Steelers just dominated from that point forward, handing Cincinnati a really tough loss as they took a shot with their playoff chances. We'll take a break, come back with more. How about TJ Watt today? Boy, did he have a game, and he got into the head of Jonah Williams, no doubt. More sacks for Watt, 3 on the day for the Steelers. They win 34-11. More coverage coming up as we continue right here on The Extra Point.
Welcome back to the Neighborhood Ford Store Steelers Extra Point.
Hey, the defense did its part. A lot of guys out with injury. Landon Roberts looks like he may be lost for some time. All those inside linebackers are gone. But, man, T.J. Watt and Alex Highsmith had a day. Watt, another sack. He now has 17. Let's hear from him after the game today over at Acrisure Stadium.
Just motivates us to want it even more. This feeling is addicting, and we just need to continue to work towards having performances like this.
How were you guys able to replace so many missing pieces in that middle of that defense?
I mean, like I tell you every week, it's just everybody's in those meeting rooms. We trust in everybody. Everybody's paid to play. We feel very confident with anybody in there, and it's all about not trying to do too much. And the plays are going to be there, and it's just a matter of making them once you have that opportunity, and that's what you saw tonight.
Is it just complimentary as you felt all year, maybe for a while beyond that, as far as just a collective team effort?
It's still, I mean, I'll have to watch the film, obviously, but it definitely was fun. It was a fun game to be a part of. Felt we were flying around. Anytime you're able to have 2 or 3 turnovers on defense and see the offense being able to fly around like that, felt great.
What do you think of Highsmith?
Ryan, I want to get your take on Watt. Now 17 sacks, that's 5 off 22 and a half. That's only 2 games left. Can he do it? And what did it mean for those guys to bring that pressure again today?
I think he can. I mean, you never can count on a guy like Watt, one of the best professional sackers in the National Football League. And when you talk about having another comparable pass rusher opposite of him and Highsmith, why not? Why not? But, you know, this is who T.J. Watt is. He makes routine plays happen routinely. And his routine play is what? Sacking the quarterback or collapsing the pocket, putting pressure on him. He's a difference maker. I know you talk about outsiders talk about other defenders potentially being the defensive player of the year, Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons, you know, but let's keep it real. The most consistent guy week in and week out has been T.J. Watt. So kudos to him and the rest of the defenders just doing a great job in neutralizing a very, very hot quarterback in Jake Browning coming in tonight's matchup.
I thought schematically they did a good thing, too, dropping Highsmith into coverage, dropping Watt into coverage. Yeah. All that kind of stuff does matter, and it confuses inexperienced quarterbacks. All right, we'll take a break, come back with more. You're watching The Extra Point right here on KDKA+.
Welcome back to the Neighborhood Ford Store Steelers Extra Point.
All right, the season is winding down. Let's take a look at the Ford road ahead to find out what the Steelers have left, because they're going to have to win both games and get some help along the way. It's at Seattle next week, and that's on New Year's Eve. And Seattle's in the same boat. They got to win, too. Who knows who's going to be at their quarterback. And then you have a game against the Ravens, and that could mean nothing to the Ravens. It could mean everything for the Ravens. Bryant, your take on those 2 games, and what do you expect to happen? Can the Steelers get the help they need?
Hopefully. You know what I mean? I think we need to start praying for that right now. But the road ahead, you know, there are 2 winnable ball games. Remember, we took care of business against Baltimore earlier in the year, right there in our backyard. We travel out to Seattle. That's the most important ball game because that's the next ball game. They have a lot to play for as well. And the thing about Pittsburgh, something that we haven't seen consistently, is fast starts. Tonight we get off to a fast start. That's huge when you're talking about playing against, you know, playoff caliber competition. You can't afford to get off to a slow start, and that has really hurt our chances in past ball games when we were currently involved in this losing streak. So I like the road ahead. If you're going to earn it, you're going to earn it. But we have to look outside our window because we need help, as you mentioned. But most importantly, let's take care of our own business, and that starts with Seattle next week.
Putting pressure on the quarterback. Brian, thanks very much for your expertise as always. All Things Covered podcast. You'll see you here on KDKA+. And have a great holiday, my friend. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right, that's going to do it for us. Thanks for joining us again. We didn't have a long show today, but we thank you for joining us. Hope you have a great holiday weekend. We'll have the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown tomorrow night. Yes, 11:35, right, as Santa arrives at your house. And next week, a big match at Seattle. We got you going with the Mike Tomlin Show on Tuesday. Thanks for joining us. Steelers win 34-11 to get to 8-7 and need some help tomorrow. We'll see you next week.